Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next webinar in the pre-arrival webinar series for new international students starting their first semester at the University of Iowa in the spring 2021. Today's topic is on-campus housing and off-campus living. Welcome. The next slide will be a brief greeting from one of the university administrators overseeing this area.
Hello, my name is Vaughn Stange. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Student Life and the Senior Director of University Housing and Dining. We look forward to seeing you on campus, but in the meantime, please watch this webinar on housing and dining services.
Thank you. And now quickly about the webinar series. If you have not attended our webinar yet, please note that this is an optional series provided to you as new incoming international students before arriving to Iowa City. The objective of the series is for you to arrange plans for travel to and living in Iowa City, to understand orientation, expectations, and responsibilities, and finally, to transition to student life and academics at the University of Iowa. All webinars are recorded and posted on our website where you registered for the webinar, which is international.uiowa.edu/pre-arrival-webinar. During the webinar, if you encounter any technical difficulties, please let us know in the chat function. If you have any questions related to today's topic, please use the Q&A function to post your questions. We will answer them live at the end of the webinar as time permits. If you have not received your I-20 or DS-2019 immigration document, please note, if you are an incoming F1 student, your I-20 will be sent to you electronically or by email. This is permitted by the US government for the time being. If things change, we will let you know. However, the DS-2019 document requires still an eShip global shipping fee payment in order to receive this document abroad. Once you receive either I-20 or DS-2019 document, then you can apply for your respective F1 or J1 visa. The same information is also contained in the pre-arrival checklist in our IHOC portal, which is ihawk.uiowa.edu. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact our orientation team at their email address, which is isss-orientation@uiowa.edu. Let's review some important dates. November 15th will be a deadline for acceptance of undergraduate admission. December 19, 2020 is the earliest date you can arrive to United States. January 18, 2021 is the latest date to arrive in person to Iowa City. We would like to remind you to be careful about self-isolation period that may delay the class attendance should you be attending in person. So please plan accordingly. Then the mandatory orientation, and this year it's going to be an online orientation. It will take place on January 19th through the 22nd. Again, it's mandatory. January 25th is the first day of our spring 2021 semester. Let's do quick presenter introductions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianne Fredrickson. I work in University Housing and Dining as a contracts and assignment specialist, and I help our students get housing and their meal plans.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kendall Arthur. My pronouns of reference are he, him, his. I'm a former international student here in the United States, originally from the Caribbean. And right now here at Iowa, I'm a residence hall coordinator with University Housing and Dining. In that role, I run one of our residence halls, supervise RAs, and work with our residents directly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa Pomponio. I'm one of the attorneys at Student Legal Services here at the university. We assist students with a variety of different legal issues, including related to renting and landlord-tenant. And I'll be talking more about student legal services and those issues later on in this presentation.
And my name is Andrea Siebenman, and I'm one of the ISSS advisors, and I'm also the webinar coordinator, and today a moderator as well. Let's review quickly goals of today's presentations. We will provide an overview of university housing and dining services for undergraduate students, including application timeline, dining options, facilities, and much more. Then you will learn about the advantages and disadvantages of living in privately owned housing located off campus, as well as you will learn about the best practices for obtaining off-campus housing, things to consider before signing a rental agreement, and ways to avoid potential pitfalls in the process. At the end of the webinar, we will save some time to answer any questions you may have about the presentation. And now the presentation.
Hi, everyone. I will be talking to you about all things on-campus housing. We currently have roughly 5,000 students living in our residence halls, 153 resident assistants within our 14 living learning communities. We have 10 residence halls that our students can live in, and we have 3 marketplaces and 7 retail dining locations that students can grab snacks and food at. Our housing application for the spring semester is open. It opened on October 28th. We ask all of our students to complete their application by December 15th and also have any ADA accommodation requests submitted by that time as well. In early January, we will send room assignments to all of our students to their UIowa email account. Students can start arriving on campus on January 18th. Into the residence halls, we do charge a $35 per day early arrival fee. Your housing contract will start on January 23rd, and as of January 23rd, there will not be any additional fees associated with arriving. And all of our students can stay in the residence halls until May 15th, which is when the residence halls close for the semester.
Now, on our website, you've probably seen us talk about living learning communities. But what are they? Living learning communities, or LLCs, are designated floors of our buildings where students live together based on academic interest or identity. LLC participants are enrolled in a course in common, and special events are planned to bridge academic and social connections between students and faculty. Now, you might be wondering, why do we even have LLCs, or what's their purpose? The reason is because of research and what it shows. It shows that, students in LLCs are more likely to stay in college, they're more likely to earn a higher GPA, as well as to experience a greater degree of satisfaction with their overall college experience. Now, as you can tell, we have quite a few residence hall options on campus. And even within those halls, you have a variety of options as well, catering to different interests as well as to different budgets. All right. And so here on this slide, we have a few of those options in case you're curious. We have here as number one, the double room. In that situation, you would have one roommate, and you typically have a community or individual bathroom down the hall. We have some halls that have double rooms, but with pod configurations or pod style bathrooms. What that is that you will have one roommate, but there will be an individual use bathroom down the hall, and that's a situation or a setup you find mostly in our renovated buildings or in some of our newest buildings. And lastly, we have our suite style housing with a shared bath and kitchen. That's typically the setup you find in Mayflower Hall, and students in that living option are eligible for our Hawkeye meal plan. All right. We recognize that it can be a little awkward or unsettling having a roommate, especially if you've never had one before. But please know that single rooms are, because they're so popular, we don't anticipate having many of them in the spring semester, and so we just want to make sure that you're aware of that. That way, you're not blindsided before you arrive at Iowa.
We have 3 different meal plans that students can choose from depending on where they live. We have our gold meal plan, which is our unlimited plan that includes 75 flex meals and 8 guest meals at the cost of $1,925 for the semester. We also have the black meal plan, which is probably our most popular. This caters more to students that don't necessarily eat 3 meals a day and they prefer just 2 meals a day is what it averages out to be. So it's 145 meal plans, 75 flex meals, and 8 guest meals at $1,735 for the semester. Any student that is living in a university supplied, in a room that has a university supplied kitchen, or off-campus students are eligible for our Hawkeye meal plan, which is just 75 flex meals at the cost of $745. Any students living off campus can purchase any of our meal plans, but most of them typically go with the Hawkeye meal plan if they want one. Flex meals can be used at either a marketplace or a retail location. Students have until February 5th to make any adjustments to their spring semester meal plan. Students that are living off campus that choose to purchase a meal plan have 5 days after their purchase to make any changes as well. Here we'll see the prices for our housing for the entire year. So our traditional double room is what is the lowest cost point for students. It is about $3,500 per semester. Living in Mayflower, you have a little bit more, it's more of an apartment style living, and so that cost is a little bit more than what it is for the traditional double. And then Peterson and Catlett, their rates are a little bit more. They're newer buildings. They have a little more amenities available. You can see all of our prices for each room type per building on our housing website at housing.uiowa.edu.
Yeah, so we recognize that we're still very much in the pandemic, sadly, and you might be wondering what's it like dining on campus while COVID-19 is still rampant. So one thing we can share is that the campus dining is still available for our students who live on campus and have meal plans. However, whereas normally you are able to actually sit in the dining halls to have a meal, during this pandemic for spring 2021, we'll not be offering dining options at any of our marketplaces. However, if you do have a dining plan or a meal plan, there are 2 ways in which you will be able to get your meals on a daily basis. All right, the first option is called our express dining option. In that option, what you do is for every meal period, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what you do is you go online, you make a reservation, and then once you get that reservation confirmation, you go over to the marketplace or the dining hall that you selected, you choose your meal, and the meal is basically placed in containers for you, which you use to leave the dining hall and head back to your room. If let's say you'd want a faster option, we have what's called the online ordering option. On campus, our students call it the Grubhub option. So what that is that you'll need to download the Grubhub app, all right? Attach your meal plan to the Grubhub app. And once you order through the Grubhub app, you will be able to then go to that marketplace to grab the meal that you ordered, and then you can easily head on out. All right. In case you want a little more information on what that looks like, etc., feel free to check out the website listed. We're more than happy to advise you as well as to provide you support. We also recognize that in the pandemic, it can be a little nerve-wracking figuring out like what living on campus might look like. All right, and so our halls are very much open, and we are accepting applications for students to live on campus in the spring. However, one thing we'd like to make you be aware of are the additional policies we have in place just for your health and safety during this pandemic. All right, we require now that masks be worn by all students and visitors in all public spaces. If let's say you don't have a mask, we have dispensers in our lobbies that are replenished every day, and so you are able to get masks free of charge that way. We also are telling our students that they only allowed one visitor or guest at any one time. That way, we reduce crowding in the halls. And lastly, if let's say you believe you might have been exposed to COVID-19 or you tested positive, we are able to support you. We do have isolation housing on campus. That way, you are able to continue living on campus despite being COVID-19 positive. And so just let us know what that diagnosis is, and we'll be more than happy to let you know what that process will look like. Similar to the dining option on the previous slide, feel free to click on the link listed below in case you'd like to know a little more information on what housing looks like during this pandemic here at Iowa.
University Housing and Dining staff will work one-on-one with students for documented disabilities and medical equipment accommodations. We know that some of our folks coming on campus may need a special room arrangement given their medical need. We ask that your initial request come in through the housing application, which is in the checkbox. Step number 6 is where it is within the application. Once you select that, if it is necessary, you will receive an email with instructions, and then I will also follow up with you. That process includes a student statement stating their need, as well as medical provider documentation supporting your request. We ask that those and that information, that information is provided by December 15th, so we can work to get you the proper accommodations for the spring semester. If you have any questions about disability accommodations, please let us know. You can email us at housing@uiowa.edu. Something to note is our process is separate than the student disability services for in-classroom accommodations. We will often refer to the other process to make sure that you are working with them if needed as well. So we'll get you all on the same page there.
Yeah, so you might be wondering, okay, I live in the residence hall, but what if, let's say, I have a question? What if, let's say, there's an emergency or I need support? Who is there for me, or what is there to assist me? And so we're proud to say that we have quite a few housing and dining resources. That way, we are able to support you regardless of what your situation is, all right? I would start first by talking about our resident assistants, commonly known as RAs. Every single hall has at least one RA on every single floor. RAs are for the most part, RAs are undergraduate students who are carefully selected and trained. Their job is also to assist residents in adjusting to the halls and to life at Iowa. We are proud to say also that we have quite a few international students who are RAs, and so many of them are able to assist you as well, being that they're international similar to you. All right. Next, we have hall coordinators like myself, and these are master's level professionals that live in every single hall on campus and are there to support the RAs as well as students like you in success and engagement. Lastly, we have embedded counselors. So they don't live on campus in the halls, but they offer free confidential therapy and support to our students who are going through crises or who need another type of support that's more clinical in nature. Now, our embedded counselors, also called embedded therapists, we recognize that it's not something that's commonly found in college housing departments, but it's a resource that we're very proud to offer here at Iowa simply because of the challenges some students face, all right? And so in case you're not familiar with them, these are some of the roles and responsibilities that they have here at Iowa. They provide individual psychotherapy if you believe that that's something that might be better for you and your situation. They also provide general process group therapy so that you can get a better sense of yourself as well as getting to know others in a more group setting. If let's say you're going through an emergency right now, they are able to provide same-day crisis and problem-solving counseling depending on the situation. And we recognize that life happens, and so sometimes there might be a loved one of yours that died, or there might be like a case of like let's say bias, etc. They are able to provide support to you to help you cope through those situations. One thing I'm proud to say is that the work and support of our embedded therapists is free of charge, and so don't worry about the money pieces or like let's say insurance, because they are free and they're there to help you. All you need to do is to just set up an appointment to speak with them, and they'll be more than happy to support you. We also recognize that coming from abroad, it can be challenging or even nerve-wracking, like living with a roommate for the first time. And I know as a former international student, that was one of my concerns when I came to America many years ago. And so one thing we can say is that, to be very honest with you, because single rooms are so limited on campus, most students, especially students starting in spring 2021, they will have a roommate, all right? And so that's totally fine. But these are some of the tips we'd like to give you so that you can have the best relationship as possible with your new roommate. It's always helpful that you get to know them, because it's possible that you might not know them before. They might be very different to you. That's okay. Find out about, talk to them, find out about them, who they are, where they're from, their interests, etc. So at least that way you can develop a relationship with them. Take your roommate agreement seriously. Here on campus, we have what's called roommate agreements. What that is that as an RA, your RA will send out a link to you and your roommate on a number of topics. So you guys will be able to talk about your interests, what you have in common, who likes the lights on early morning, who doesn't like the lights on early morning, just so that you could determine how exactly you could have the best living situation. So we always encourage people to take that seriously, because that is the main way in which you get to know your roommate and how they live. And so as always, if let's say you need any support with that, feel free to reach out to your RA, all right? Also assume goodwill and positive intentions. And last but not least, communication is important. We recognize that people communicate differently, but if there are challenges in the room, unless you don't communicate to your roommate or to your RA or myself, a coordinator, that's the only way someone will know that there is an issue that has to be fixed. All right. And as always, if let's say there are other things that are going on, or if you have questions or concerns, feel free to talk to your RA or even to coordinators like myself in the building. We're more than happy to support you and to help mediate the conflict.
All of our residence halls are open to students of any gender. Within our buildings, we have a few that have single gender floors or wings. Burge, Courier, Hillcrest, and Reno have floors that are just one gender or just one wing. Our buildings that have mixed gender floors, where your neighbor, the person across the hall from you, they may be of a different gender. Those buildings are Catlett, Dom, Mayflower, Peterson, Stanley, and Slater halls. We also have several different bathroom types. So we have our community style bathroom, which when you walk into the bathroom, there is a row of toilets, a row of sinks, a row of showers. It's locked access within each of those spaces, aside from the sinks. They are single gender bathrooms, and it's typically shared between 12 and 15 people within your on your floor. The community style bathrooms are found in Burge, Courier, Hillcrest, and Reno. Our single user bathrooms, which are often called our pod style bathrooms, they are also locked access, but they're for any gender. You use them one at a time. It is also shared on your hall, so there's between 12 and 15 students will use these. When you enter the bathroom, you will see just one sink, shower, and toilet in that space. And these single user bathrooms can be found in Catlett, Dom, Peterson, Slater, and Stanley halls. At Mayflower, we have suite style living. And so between 2 and 4 students will share the bathroom, which has 2 sinks, 1 shower, and 1 toilet.
We understand that coming to the United States can be nerve-wracking, especially if you're living on campus for the very first time. It's also very common for students to wonder, what does the room come with, all right? And so here is a list of items that you typically find in our residence halls. Although we have a few differences based on halls, but in general, these are the things you will find, all right? You would have like recycling and trash containers. You will have a pre-lofted bed or a raised bed. You will have a telephone jack in case you'd like to have like a landline. But note that phones and cords are not provided. You'll need to get those yourself. In case you know you would like an Ethernet jack or you like Ethernet access, we provide that in our rooms. However, an Ethernet cord is not provided. Our rooms also come with desks and chairs, an extra long twin bed, drawers, as well as a cable TV jack in case you'd like to bring your TV. However, a TV and cord are not provided. For the things we have here that we don't provide, there are many ways in which you can get them. You can either buy them online and have them shipped to the hall for you, or we have many stores in the area like Walmart, Target, etc., that you can easily go to get all the items that you think you need for your room. Using the link at the bottom, you can also go there to see other items we recommend that you have, just to make sure that you know you're comfortable and you have the things that you need.
Some tips to consider. Something to note is our rooms are selected first come, first serve based on when we receive your application. So as we make our assignments, we will go through them in order that they're received. So people that have applied before you will get their assignments first. So in that process, we encourage you to be flexible and open to multiple room options and building options. You know, some folks have it in their head that they're going to live in this one particular building, which may be very popular with other students. And if you apply later, you may not get that. So we just ask that you be open to your options, and there's always opportunities for room changes later in this semester after you move in. As Kendall mentioned, all roommate relationships take time and communication, so be willing to have those conversations with them and be open and honest with them as you're navigating the roommate field. Students should be the primary person submitting their applications and communicating with us in our housing and dining office. Since you are the folks that have the contracts and you are living here, it's best for us to talk to you to navigate your situation. As always, we are willing and able to take phone calls and emails at any time. We are open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday for your phone calls. And if you have any other questions for us, please just let us know and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Okay, we are starting the next presentation, which is going to be on off-campus living and student support.
My name is Alyssa Pomponio. The other name that you saw on the screen was Amanda Elkins. She's the other attorney at Student Legal Services. Student Legal Services is an office on campus that offers free legal advice and low-cost representation to students. We, as I said, we have 2 licensed attorneys, myself and Amanda Elkins, at our office, and we are 100% confidential. So what that means is that you can come talk to us about a variety of different legal issues, and we're not going to share that information with anybody unless you consent. So we're not going to tell your family, we're not going to tell your roommates, we're not going to tell ISSS, we're not going to tell your professors. It's a confidential relationship that you have with Student Legal Services. We practice in several different areas of law, including tenants' rights, which is what the presentation is going to focus on today. But we also practice in criminal law. We do small claims, contract review, notarization to get important signatures done, family law issues, employment, consumer issues, and traffic tickets. There's, if you ever have any kind of legal issue or question, you can contact us and we can assist you. So there are definitely advantages to living off campus. There are more options for types of housing. There is, there's large houses where 7 people can live in one house. There's 2-bedroom apartments or 3-bedroom apartments, or single apartments, so 1-bedroom apartments, or studios, or efficiency units where it is sort of dorm-like or similar to a residence hall, in that you're renting a room and then you may share bathroom and kitchen with other people who are also renting that space. So there's a variety of different types of options, and there's more options for privacy because most of the rental units off campus in the Iowa City area are do offer private bathrooms and kitchens, if not just for you, but also for a small number of roommates. You also, don't have a lot, in a residence hall, there's lots of people who are living there. And so if you're looking for a quieter atmosphere, off-campus living could be good for you. There's also the potential to save money. You are obligated to pay your rent, and there's a security deposit that you pay up front that we're going to talk about in a little bit later. But other than that, there's the potential to save money. There's also the potential for some hidden fees, and so I want to just qualify that it may be cheaper than living on campus, but there's no guarantees to that. There's also increased availability for parking in off-campus living situations. Sometimes you do have to pay for that parking, but there are more parking spots available. And given that there are different types of housing situations available off campus, a lot of the off-campus housing is more appropriate for families than what's available in the residence halls. So of course there are disadvantages to living off campus as well. You run the risk of low quality housing. Some of the housing that we have here in the Iowa City area is very nice, and some of it is, definitely okay. And then unfortunately, some of it is not the best quality. And so there is that risk as well. You also have the risk of having a non-responsive landlord. So if you report maintenance issues, things that need to be fixed, you run the risk that your landlord is not going to fix them. Of course, there may be remedies for that, ways to get that changed, but that is something to know on the front end. Oftentimes, tenants are also responsible for paying utilities, things like electricity, gas, internet, water, garbage, things like that. And so there are those added costs as well. Depending on where your rental unit is located, there may be some transportation difficulties. Certainly, some things are, maybe walkable, but if you don't have a car, then, you're potentially relying on public transportation. So is there public transportation that's near your rental unit? That's a question that you should be asking. That may prove difficult as well. Also, roommate problems. If you are living with roommates, there's always the possibility that there could be issues that arise, problems, whether you know the person in advance or if you don't. So one option is to consider living alone. So what are some tips for obtaining an apartment? So first, just be aware that there are hidden costs to renting. So I mentioned the rent, which is typically paid monthly. But there's also the security deposit, which is a sum of money that can be up to 2 months of rent that you pay in advance that will cover certain types of charges that may come at the end of your lease, including any damage to the apartment. Utilities, I mentioned, transportation, and sometimes you have to pay for parking, or if you have to pay for a bus pass, or maybe you're needing to get a ride share like Uber or Lyft to go places. Those all may be hidden costs of renting to consider in addition to what your actual monthly rent is. It's really important that you read the entire lease. A lot of times a lease can be, several pages long. I've seen leases that are, up to 12 pages long, and it can be a lot to read, but it's really important that you read through it because leases have a lot of rules. And it's really important that tenants follow the rules that are in their lease. Otherwise, they can risk being evicted. An eviction is where there's a court process where you're basically told that you don't have the right to live in the unit anymore. So it's really important to read your lease. And it's also important to look at the actual unit. So I know that many of you may not be here in the United States right now. And so there are ways to do that before you come to the United States. You can ask for a virtual showing of the unit that you're going to rent so that you can see what it actually looks like. Try to avoid looking at what's called a model unit. Sometimes you're shown a unit that may be similar to the unit that you'd be renting, but it's not the actual unit. This way you avoid scams and disappointment if the unit that you arrive to doesn't actually look like the unit you saw. We highly recommend that you schedule an appointment with Student Legal Services for a lease review so that we can read through your entire lease and talk about it with you. We can talk about your lease in specific terms, but also provide you with some information that's general information to rent that you should be aware of as the year goes on. We really recommend that you talk to current tenants who are renting in that unit or renting with that landlord, and also checking online reviews for the landlord and the Student Government Renters Guide. All of these things will give you an idea about how your landlord may stack up compared to other landlords in the Iowa City area. Iowa City has a lot of corporate landlords as opposed to singular people who are renting out their extra properties. There are those people, but there's a lot of corporate landlords, which means that a lot of students have had experience renting with these landlords before. So we really recommend that you look into their reputations before you sign a lease. Next slide, please. So when you're ready to sign a lease, it's important to remember that a lease is a legally binding contract. And so what that means is it can be difficult to get out of that lease once it's signed. So it's really important that you are sure that you want to live at that specific place for the lease term. And there may be there may be various reasons why people may want to get out of a contract, but we know from what's happened this past year that the uncertainty related to COVID-19 is a reason that some students have wanted to get out of their contract, and it can be difficult once the lease is signed. So if you have concerns that maybe you won't actually come to the United States, or or you're just concerned about what the future looks like and you're nervous about renting off campus, it's just important to remember that a lease is legally binding, and if you have questions about that, you should come talk to us at Student Legal Services. If you do have roommates, we recommend that all the roommates sign at the same time. Even if you're in different locations, that you just all agree we're going to sign at this one time, so that in case anybody does decide to back out, the other roommates haven't signed that contract yet. It's really important that once it's signed, you keep a copy of it for your records. This way you have it in case you ever need it, in case you want to reference it to look at some of the rules that are in your lease, or in case there's a problem in the future. We highly recommend that you never sign an incomplete lease. If there are blanks, things that should be written in but are not written in, or if there's pages missing, or if the lease mentions an addendum, something that should be attached to the lease, but it's not actually attached, do not sign. You want to make sure that you know exactly what you're signing and you have all that information in advance of signing it. So before you move in, once you have signed a lease and you're ready to live off campus, we recommend that you purchase renter's insurance. Renter's insurance will cover the cost of any damage that happens to your unit because of, let's say, flooding or fire, or if somebody steals or vandalizes your property inside your unit, renter's insurance can help cover the cost of it. It can be as little as $10 a month, and you can get it through a variety of different insurance companies, similar to car insurance. So if you were to just Google renter's insurance, a lot of different places would come up, but there are places like Geico, Allstate, Progressive, all of those types of places will sell you renter's insurance. You should set up any utilities that are in your name beforehand. So sometimes landlords, the landlord will be in charge of the utilities, and sometimes the tenant will be in charge of the utilities. You'll need to check your lease to know if you are in charge of them, and if you are, you'll need to set them up in advance of your arriving so that let's say the electricity works when you arrive. If you do have roommates, we recommend that you consider having a roommate agreement. This is a written agreement between the roommates about certain things: how rent will be paid, how the security deposit will be paid or divided back up once it's returned to you at the conclusion of the lease. Things like, you can develop a cleaning schedule or, a guest policy. You can put anything you want into a roommate agreement. We do have a sample of one on our website, but you can edit it however you'd like. So once you're ready to move in, it's important that you notify the landlord immediately if the unit is not in the condition that you thought it was going to be, or if something is broken or needs to be repaired. Sometimes what happens is students move in and they're very surprised at the condition of the unit, that it's not at all what they were expected. If that's the case, you need to notify the landlord immediately, and you should also contact Student Legal Services so we can talk about what your options are. But if you notice something that is just broken or needs to be repaired, you should also notify the landlord. We recommend that you complete a move-in checklist when you move in. A move-in checklist is basically a list of all the rooms in the house, and then you can document if there's any issues. So for example, if there's a stain on the carpet, or if there's damage to the wall, or if the kitchen is not clean, you can note all of that on the checklist. Sometimes the landlord provides you with a checklist that you would then give back to them. But if they don't, we still recommend that you do it, and we have an example of one on our website. You should then email the checklist back to the landlord. We recommend email because this means that you have a copy of it saved in your email. If you don't email it, then keep a copy some other way. Take a picture of it before you give it to your landlord. This way you have it as well as your landlord. We also recommend that even before you move any furniture in, you take pictures and video to document the overall condition of the unit. You want to, as I mentioned before, document any stains, rips, tears, damage, uncleanliness, anything like that, so that you have proof of that in case later on your landlord tries to say that you caused that damage. You want to be sure to back up those pictures and videos on your computer or on the cloud. Sometimes people take pictures on their phone and then they get a new phone and then they don't have access to those prior pictures. So it's really important to back them up somehow so that you have access to them when you move out in case you need it. So while you're living in the unit, you should clean regularly. Part of what's going to be required of you is that you return the unit back to the condition it was at move-in. So assuming that it was clean when you moved in, it will be easier to do that if you clean it on a regular basis. You should pay your rent on time. It's typically by the first of the month, but this will depend on the specifics of what your lease agreement says. So be sure to check your lease. If you don't pay your rent on time, you run the risk of late fees or potentially being evicted from the unit. You should tell your landlord right away if there's any leaks or any conditions that could cause damage to the unit. Sometimes if, let's say, you have mold growing in the bathroom and you don't tell your landlord, it could get worse, and then your landlord can charge you for not telling them. So it's really important that you communicate with your landlord about any issues that need to be fixed or repaired in the unit. You should contact Student Legal Services if your landlord charges you unexpected fees during your lease. So something other than your rent would be potentially an unexpected fee. So if you ever get charged something, contact us before you pay it. This way we can give you advice about whether we think that you should pay it. If you pay it before you talk to us, it can be difficult to get that money back. And really important, never turn your heat off all the way during the cold months in Iowa, which are typically from November to March. Even if you're traveling, even if you leave the Iowa City area or leave the country even, it's important to keep your heat on because the pipes can freeze and that can cause a lot of damage. When you're ready to move out of your unit, it's important to clean it. When you leave the unit, you've got to bring it back to the condition it was at the beginning of your lease. And so that's why cleaning while you're living there is so important, because if you clean a little bit all the time, it will be less to clean at the end, and you're more likely to keep it in the condition it was like when you moved in. When you're ready to move out, it's really important that you also take pictures and video of what your unit looks like when you're moving out. So it's same, taking pictures of any damage, stains, tears or things that aren't clean, nicks in the paint, anything like that, so that you can document what it looks like when you move out. You should also ask for a walkthrough. A walkthrough is a meeting with your landlord to discuss the condition of the apartment when you're moving out. The purpose of a walkthrough is so that your landlord can tell you, this needs to be cleaned more, or work on this a little bit more, so that this way you have an opportunity to keep cleaning, and this will hopefully allow you to get more money from your security deposit back. So we really recommend that you have that walkthrough and that you're there for it, that you and your landlord are there together. You also need to leave a forwarding address with your landlord so that they know where to return your security deposit money to. It's not enough to have provided them with a permanent address at the beginning of your tenancy. You have to leave a new address with them, even if it's the same one that they might already have. And then when you get your security deposit back, your landlord might take money out of it for certain things. And it's important that you understand what purpose the money can come out. So if you have unpaid rent, your landlord can take money out of your security deposit for that. If you have fees that haven't been paid, like a utility bill or late fees, your landlord can take money out of your security deposit to cover the costs. And if your landlord feels that you've damaged the unit or it's not in the condition it was like when you moved in, your landlord can take money out of your security deposit to bring it back to the condition it was at move-in. So that's where the pictures from move in and move out become so important. So if you disagree with any of the deductions that your landlord took from your security deposit, we recommend that you come talk to us at Student Legal Services, and we can talk with you about what your options are to try to get that money back from your landlord. Student Legal Services is located on the ground floor of the Iowa Memorial Union, but our offices are currently closed because of COVID-19. We're working remotely and holding appointments via Zoom. But you can contact us by email or by phone. Our office is open. Our virtual office is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 p.m. You can also follow us on social media. And we offer, a variety of tips about different things, including renting on social media. So we recommend that you check us out there as well.